Welcome back. Today I'm going to take this small lump of, I think it's hackberry, and I'm going to show you how I make a snowman. Not an ornament, but a decoration. When it's all finished, it's probably going to be about 8 inches tall. So come along with me and let's knock this out. Now there's any number of ways you can do a snowman. You can make it traditional snowman using 3 balls, or you can do 2. I've done both. I actually think using 2 is a little cuter sometimes. It just depends on my mood and the wood and where I want to go. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get this round and knock some of this bark off. Maybe not all of it, I don't know. We'll see. It's turning loose, so I'll probably just take it all off. So let's get it round, and then once I get it round, I'll determine whether or not I'm going to go 2 or 3 spheres. Okay, for the base piece, you want it as tall as it is wide, regardless of whether you're doing 2 or 3. So first thing I got to do is flatten this off, so I can take my measurement. And then I'll transfer that here. So there's one, and that's almost 2 and is right at 2 3/4. For the next one, it wants to be about 2/3 of that, so I'm going to take it to 2 inches. And again, when I'm done, it'll be about 2 inches wide. And if I want to do a third, it would be about 1.5 inches. So you're stepping down. Now how do I know what those measurements are? I'm eyeballing what looks good to me. You want to try to get close to Fibonacci if you can. Wow, there's some curl right there. This would be a cool looking snowman. But I typically just eyeball it. You don't want to make that round, it won't stand up. So you want to keep enough flat down there. Ooh, got me some nasty tear out there. We may have to do a design change. I'm changing my dimensions a little bit. Again, I'm going with what's pleasing to the eye. Even though that was my dimension, my diameter has changed a little bit, but it just wasn't looking right. It was looking too disproportionate, and I didn't like it. At this point, my lines don't mean anything. And in fact, I usually don't even use them. I just turn it till it looks right. You're not striving for perfection here. You ever seen a perfect snowman? I hadn't either. But see, I'm liking this. That's looking pretty. Yeah, I'm gonna do 3 on this. I undercut the bottom a little bit. I may just turn a tenon down here. Once I get the head shaped, turn it over and finish the bottom and then part the head off. Billy, what about the hat? Aren't you going to leave that on for the hat? Nope. I like to do my hat separate. You can do this all between centers. I've done it hundreds of times. Or you can put a tenon on it. Now I've got a tenon. Turn it around, I'm going to sand it. So that's the body of the snowman. Use shellac as sanding sealer. Now normally, this is where I would use my Axe abrasive paste, but all of those little voids or cracks in the bark would fill up, and I really don't want that. And I'm going to shoot this with Minwax polyacrylic anyway. So that's the body of the snowman, pretty much done. Turn it around, finish the bottom, and then I'll part the top off, or part the body off right here. And I'm not too worried about how round or flat that very top is, and I'll show you why in a minute. The decision I need to make though is what do I want to be the front and what do I want to be the back, because I'm going to decorate this thing. So while I'm thinking about it, we'll turn it around. I'm undercutting this just a little bit so it always sits level or sits flat. Okay, except for spraying the finish on this and doing the decoration, this is pretty much done. So what I want to do right now is show you how I do the buttons. Okay, for the buttons, I just find some small pieces of bark and glue them on. I'll let these dry for a little while. Now what I want to do, again I'm doing this before I part it off because it makes it easier. I want to mark the holes for my arms. Arms? What are you going to use for arms? I've got this little thing right here, and it's full of twigs and branches that I've cut off of various trees just for making snowmen. So I'll go through here and find a couple that I like that are roughly the same size, because you want it to be as proportional as possible. Okay, so I've got these cut to size, and I need to determine where to drill the holes. Alright, I've got those marked. Find the size of drill bit I need. Now, how you do the arms is really pretty much up to you. You can have them both down, you can have them both pointing down like this, or you can have one hangs down and one up waving. What I like to do is have one kind of like that. And one kind of like that, so he's waving, didn't drill my hole deep enough. Again, it's all about proportion. You want it to look proportionate and as symmetrical as possible. Now, I'm not going to glue these in right now. I could, but typically if I sell these and have to ship them, these have a tendency to get broken. I don't like that, so I'll just package them beside them and I'll let the buyer install them. And I'll send them a picture of what it's supposed to look like. They can configure it any way they want. Now that's that. Billy, those pieces of coal look a little bit brown to me. Yeah, they look a little brown to me too. So, I'm gonna try to be careful and not color on the snowman. Now they're a little more cold looking. Now let's work on the nose. Nose is going to go there. For the carrot nose, I'll take a piece of 1/8 inch dowel or a bamboo skewer. I've used both, and I just roughly shape it with my belt sander. And I'll color it orange. So I'll take a black Sharpie and put a couple of marks on it, because sometimes carrots have those things. Now I've got the spot for my hole. Perfect. And there's the carrot nose. So we've got the holes drilled for the arms, got the coal and the nose on. Decoration for the mouth and eyes can be pretty much any way you want to do it, depending on how artistic you are. I'm not terribly artistic, so I'm going to draw a crooked little smile. I could take some more bark and use those for the eyes, and there's my face. You can do eyebrows, anything you want. I need to let that dry before I part that off. Okay, the CA wasn't setting up fast enough, the thick CA, to suit me for the nose, so I just popped it out. I'll glue it back in a minute once I get this thing parted off. Again, I'll show you how to do the hat in a second, but before I part this off, there's another decoration that I do to my snowmen. I'll put a scarf on them. I'll show you that in a second too. But I need to make a place for the scarf or it'll look funny because it won't sit right. So what I do is I get my parting tool, my wide parting tool, and I come halfway between these two spheres and cut me a little collar, or basically a groove that the material that the scarf is made of will sit in. Now I can part this off. Again, I'm not worried about how round this is, and I'll sand it some when I get it off anyway. And there it is. Yeah, it's a little flat on top. We're going to take care of that in a minute. Okay, now I glue my nose back in. Actually, I'll glue the nose back in a minute. Let's work on the scarf. Okay, I found some fabric. Okay, I'm going to use this fabric for the scarf, and I'm going to tie it around his neck. I'll show you how I'll do that when I get back. I've got to run up to the house and fold this and iron it so that it looks right. I'll be back. Okay, now it's time to put the scarf on. I know I've got way too much length here. Let's cut it in half. So what I like to do is tie it up, and you see how it will go more nicely into that. If I didn't cut that recess for this scarf, it would stick out too far and look funny. So I'm gonna get this nice and tight, and you can either leave them loose and floppy like this. I have a tendency to tack them down with CA. That's just because that's the way I like it. Now, I don't want to put this on before I spray this with finish. I'm just showing you how I put the scarf on. Something else I do, and I'll do it after I put this on, after I spray the finish on, but I won't do the finish until I put the hat on it, is I will cut slits in the bottom of this fabric to make it look more scarfy. Let's take this off and work on the hat. Billy, that's a funny looking piece for a hat. It is, and you'll see where we're going here in a minute. What I was after. Boy, this thing is bug ridden. Okay, got my tenon. That's about all the work I'm going to do on that side of the brim. I want this looking pretty funky. You'll see what I mean here in just a minute. Okay, that's about the right diameter for the top of the hat. It's going to start going another way. And that being the case, this brim may be a little bit wide, so I may have to cut it down after all, but we'll see. Alright, I'm going to let this CA dry in this bug poop for about 15-20 minutes so that it all gets nice and hard, and then I'll come back and finish the hat. It's going to be a funky one, but that's the way I like it. A little wider. That's perfect right there. Now it's time to part it off. Now I'll take it over to my oscillating belt sander, spindle sander, and do some final shaping. The turning is done, and it's time to glue the hat on. So I want to figure out how I want it. I think I want it like that. First things first, what color hat band do I want to use with this scarf? And I think this one. You see I left that, can you see that little step in there? I left that for the hat band. See, that just perfectly fits. Gotta let my hot glue gun heat up. Okay, got it hot glued into place. Wrap it around. Okay, hat band is in place. Now I need to find some matching feathers. So to match this scarf, I'm thinking maybe red and blue. See? These were supposed to be really small feathers, but they're not. But you can cheat, like I'm gonna cheat. There. Note to self and to you guys, spray the finish on your hat and stuff before you glue the feathers on. In this case, I'm just going to spray over them. I've done it before, they don't look bad. I'm just not going to hit it very hard. Oh, now it's time to glue the hat on. And after this is set up for a few hours, I'll hit it with the polyacrylic and then put the scarf on. So it's going to sit just like, I may cock it just a little bit. Alright, let me give me a clamp. I'm blind. Already had one sitting here. Okay. Now, I will not be selling this snowman. I'm gonna give it to my neighbor who gave me a hackberry tree when he cut it down. So I'm gonna go ahead and glue these in now. So with the exception of the scarf, there's our snowman. And I'll put the scarf on after I give it a couple of coats of polyacrylic. And I'll do that in a couple hours. And there he is, all done, waving hello. And you can see his little nose is in, the scarf is on. I didn't glue that down, I don't want to, I'm gonna leave it like it is. I'll deliver it to them, oh, probably just before Thanksgiving. So thanks for watching, folks. I really appreciate it. They're just a simple little snowman the way I do them. Again, sometimes I use 3 sections, sometimes I use 2. It just depends on the piece of wood that I'm using and my mood, really. They're not that hard to do. They don't take all that long, really, even when you decorate them up. And they're actually kind of fun. If you'd like to help support the Messy Studio in any way, it's certainly appreciated. You can do so when you buy stuff on Amazon. Just follow my affiliate link down in the description below. I get a few pennies off of each sale. It doesn't cost you anymore. And it really helps us out here in the Messy Studio to keep these things going. You can go to my website, acdcreations.com, buy some of the pieces that I turned, or merchandise, coffee cups, t-shirts. In my next video, I told you I'd have some more segmented turning coming. In my next video, I'm going to do this. It's a segmented bowl. Relatively small segmented bowl, just over 8 inches wide, about 2.5 inches tall. And this bowl will be actually given away when I hit 1,000 subscribers. So stay tuned. Y'all come back.